it was interesting trying to get those personality traits that were already there and translating them over to real estate. I remember at the beginning, I was at the gym and I had these shoes on, and my friend said, "Oh, I love your shoes." And before I knew it, 5 people were around talking about my shoes, and then they were leaving saying, "Oh, I'm going home right now, I'm gonna order some." And I looked at my friend and I said, "Now, if only I can do that with houses. You know, if only I can know that much about houses and grow that confidence to be able to do that with homes too, I think I'd be going somewhere." So.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Happy Agent Podcast, and I am Jeff Beggins here with you, along with my co-host, Mr.
Mike Puma.
Mike Puma's dressed up in a jacket today. Must be a very special guest we have with us today, and
That's right.
We have Shana Turner. Shana is a newer agent with us that I think is doing phenomenally well, and she's overcome a lot of obstacles and objectives and doubts and fears and anxieties and kind of question marks and should I quit, should I leave, what should I do, and all the stuff that kind of goes along with the learning curve of starting anything new. And so I want to thank you for taking time with us, Shana, today.
Happy to be here.
Good. So bring us back to the beginning of the story. Where did Shana come from? And then we'll get to kind of how you ended up here, and then we'll kind of just intersperse some stories in between and along the way. So welcome, tell us your story.
So going back to kind of, I guess, where I grew up, I'm from the Detroit metro area. So where I grew up is actually a small lake town that's kind of just outside of the Detroit area, which actually sounds really ideal. Who doesn't want to grow up in a lake town? It was great, a great place to be from. But there was a very small neighborhood within that small town that wasn't so great, and that's actually kind of where I came from.
Okay.
So kind of grew up in a bad neighborhood, single mother raising 2 young daughters. And I just kind of early on got a vibe of what I didn't want for myself, what I didn't want for my future family if I was going to have one. And so at an early age, I kind of knew that I was going to want, more out of life. And eventually, after I went to school, went through different jobs and things, I decided one night that I didn't want to be in the cold weather anymore. And so I moved to Florida. I didn't know anyone here, not a single soul. I ended up in Clearwater because I had a friend who had grandparents that lived here. And so I said, I'm moving to the beach. And she said, well, I hear Clearwater is great. And so the next day I booked a ticket to come apartment shopping in Clearwater. And,
wow.
Yeah.
All right. So back up. There's a couple things in that story I want to dive into a little bit. So if you don't mind. So, and it's a lot, and thanks for sharing a lot of this story. So to just know that you wanted more for yourself sounds like it's a topic to brush over that. But what was it? What are some things? Because everything, and it's an interesting experience because our brain controls so much of our world, and it keeps so many people down and it frees people, and it really does one of those two things. So you had an interesting scenario there. You saw what you didn't want. Where did you see what you did want? Or was it just so strong, the drive to get away from?
Yes.
That was.
Yeah, it was just, I just didn't want to struggle. I didn't want my children to struggle. I didn't want, I just didn't want to live in that kind of environment at all. My mother did a great job of not letting us become a product of our environment. I remember her saying that a lot. We wanted to play outside and we wanted to run the neighborhoods, and she was like, you're not doing that. She put us into competitive dance, cheerleading, pageant, like any kind of extracurricular activity that she could to just keep us so busy that we didn't have time for anything else.
And that's cool. Looking back on that, you got to realize what a struggle that probably was and how amazing that was for her to do that for you.
Yes.
Keep you focused on goals, keep you focused on passions, keep you focused on fun, versus the other way where you could have been focused on there. So that's fantastic that she was able to do that for you. So you're very lucky to have that push there.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there cold, freezing your butt off in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So where was the decision? Like what happened that you can't just, everything says enough's enough. And it sounds like you said enough's enough. And the next day your butt was here looking at an apartment. So how does where's that tipping point? What happened there?
I was driving, it was a Saturday night, and I was bartending at the time. I was going to school for some things, but nothing that I was really serious about. And then I was bartending, and I was driving to work on a Saturday night, and it was a blizzard. I mean, I was afraid I was gonna like slide off the road. It was crazy snow, and I just remember thinking, this sucks. I don't wanna be in this weather anymore. I want to go somewhere warm. I don't know where that's going to be, but I'm going there. And that was it. So I got to work, and my friend Sarah was working with me, and I said, this weather sucks. Like I have to move to the beach. I don't want to do this anymore. And she was like, well, what beach? And I said, I don't know, any beach. And she said, oh, well, I hear Clearwater is nice. And I was like, it sounds nice. Where is that? She was like, it's in Florida. And literally the next day, I booked a plane ticket for, I think, a month out from there to come to Clearwater to look for apartments. And,
that's awesome. Now, how old were you at this time?
I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
I know that I was old enough to drink, so I had to be 22, maybe 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big decision. And I just keep bringing that back because I think that's huge as far as what you're able to do to better yourself or change yourself. And you didn't know if it was better or for worse. So you're like, you know what, enough's enough. I'm done. I'm moving. Mm-hmm. Right. So you booked a flight to Tampa Bay to Clearwater, mm-hmm. and then you're a month later. So tell us how that happens and what kind of jobs did you find when you came down here? How did you figure you're going to support yourself?
So the great thing about bartending is if you know how to bartend, you can do it anywhere. At the time, I was bartending for TGI Fridays, and there was a TGI Fridays in Clearwater at the time off of 19. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
But I had a great manager up there, and he called the store down here, and he said, listen, I've got a great bartender. She wants to come down. Is there any room at all for her there? And he said, sure, send her down. So I had a job ready for me when I got here.
That takes the pressure off right there.
And it's kind of funny thinking back to our vision boards that we do, that you have talked to us about and we learned to do in Beggins University. At the time I was doing, I guess, a version of that, and I just didn't know what it was at the time, except it was a shoebox. Instead of a poster, it was a shoebox. And I cut out all these pictures from magazines of the beach and sunny places, and I glued them to this shoebox, and I would go to work, and every night I would come home and I would put my money that I made in the shoebox. And that's how I saved my money to move to Florida.
That's awesome though. But that's the whole manifestation process, right? You knew what you were doing. You didn't know how it was going to happen. You just kept throwing cash into the box, and then here you are.
Yeah.
So you're
the execution too, though, because what I liked about it was you had that moment, I need to be in Clearwater. Next day, booking the plane ticket, right? No additional time for negative thoughts to creep in, anxiety to creep in. No, you can't do it. You shouldn't do it. No, just stay here. You have a job here. It's comfortable here. Stay here. You didn't give time for any of that to set in. You said, you know what? No, I'm doing it. Boom. And you took action. And look at the result, right? That it's funny how good decisions tend to be made like that. It's just that nothing's going to stop me. Go ahead and execute. Done. Right. So I think that's really intriguing. So anyone out there that's been kind of pondering on a decision, just make the decision one way or the other.
Yeah, for sure.
Because worst case scenario, it came down and there were scary monsters and dragons everywhere, and it sucked. You just hop a plane back home and you at least have family. Yeah. Right. So you always have that opportunity down there. So I think people need to realize that too. It's worth acting and just make the decision. All right. So now you're bartending. You're in your old age, your mid-20s. right? Working in TGI Fridays, having a good old time, and then something's next. So what happens? How did you, what was the path towards real estate or your thought processes there?
So, I mean, there's a lot that kind of transpired between that time and how I ended up in real estate. When I first moved to Florida, I always loved the water, and I always loved sea life in general. Even living up north, I had considered a degree in marine biology because the Great Lakes are there, and they actually have really good programs for that, even up north. So it was kind of something I thought about doing once I got down here. So the first thing I did, other than start bartending, was I volunteered at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. And I spent probably a year volunteering there before I realized that marine biology probably was not going to be a good fit for me for a few different reasons. It turns out I'm terrified of deep water and sharks.
Okay.
And, animals don't talk back, and I talked way too much. All of the volunteers there would just kind of come in. They were nice. They would, do their job. And I remember, you have to prep the food for the animals, and I would be cutting these fish heads up and trying to talk to people, and nobody really wanted to engage in a conversation. And so I just thought, I don't think this is really going to be the right fit for me. So I cut that off pretty quickly, and just kind of kept on bartending for a while until I started to figure things out of where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And being down here is different than up north in the sense that it's great weather all the time. It's always beach season. It's always bikini season, if you will. And that was different for me because I was used to hoodies, jeans, bowling alleys, beer drinking. So I started to also get healthier when I was here because I was like, wow, all these people look amazing. Everyone's riding their bikes, they're out running. And so I actually that's kind of how I started finding my path to getting into my gym and my fitness and a sort of healthier lifestyle. Which led me to meet my husband, and so that's kind of where everything started to shift into a more, I guess, normal routine, if you will.
Right. And so the combining of them, now it's a little stabilized. Now you have a unified vision of trying to say, okay, now we've got two people to rely on. Now you can take some of the pressure off. We can follow some passions. We can kind of go and exploring. But you didn't do real estate yet.
No, so when I met my husband, I was still working at a restaurant, and my husband is a banker, and he's been in banking for 15 years. So he does the normal Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We got engaged. We were planning a wedding, and I started kind of thinking I needed a normal schedule, but I really thrived on a fast-paced environment. So I was hesitant to take an office job or something that kind of kept me cooped up because I don't, I get bored very easily with those sorts of things. But I did find a medical practice, an eye surgery center that was hiring people. And I actually was a patient there before I was an employee. So I had an accident where, to go off on another story, I had an accident where I had an eye injury at a young age, and so I have glaucoma, which is kind of strange because I'm a really young person. But I was seeing this glaucoma doctor, and I remember sitting in the waiting room, and I was looking around, and the people were just running back and forth. It was so fast-paced and high volume, but in a medical setting, which I hadn't really seen much of. And so I started to think, maybe I could work here. Maybe they need someone at the front desk or something like that. So I interviewed with them, and my director actually asked me if I wanted to fill another position that they weren't actually hiring for, but she just felt that my personality would fit really well with that, and that was being a surgical counselor. And I obviously accepted it because it was a better position than the one that I was considering. Yep. And so that's kind of how I got into the medical field. and being a surgical coordinator for an eye surgeon.
What I love about this is you figuring out what you like and what you don't like quickly and not settling for that, because you recognize, you probably didn't label it yet, but a high I personality, interpersonal, you love to talk, right? The dead fish bait and the people looking at you didn't do anything for you, right? You like, please talk to me. I want to talk. And anything that wasn't doing that for you is that. Then you marry a non-I, right? So you've got the total balancing act going on there. So you're like, I need people. I need stimulated talk. So you're kind of looking, bartending did it for you because you had a million different people, different stories all day long, but that wasn't conducive to a real life world problem that you were looking for. And so everything evolved too. But I think for those watching, I think it's the recognition of the, this is called the Happy Agent Podcast. You've been kind of in that search away from non-happiness, right? More than the pursuit of happiness, which is kind of a different way to get there. But I think it's kind of fun. And then now you kind of go into a counselor role, which to you is like perfect because you get to talk to people and they talk to you, and you can talk down a path until you actually get to know them and love them and trust them. And I remember when we were first interviewing, that's what you were loving about that. And you actually became really close with some of these people and they like you. And there's.
Yeah. It was the perfect fit at that time in my life for what I really wanted. I had stability. I had a kind of a normal schedule, a normal routine. I got to work in patient care and I absolutely loved it. I loved getting to talk to people, getting to bond with people, learning what's important to them and just sharing stories. A lot of the patients were elderly, and I loved that because they just could go on and on and on. And I had met my match because it was like these people have been around forever and they just have more stories than I do. It was great. So yeah, but I got really, I got a little burnout because I bonded with the people, which was great. But it was sad because a lot of them were really sick. So being around the sick all the time, it wears you out after a while, for sure.
Especially for someone like your personality and just the empath version of you, like you actually connect with people and you enter their world. So when you're going through what they're going through, and then you multiply 5, 10, I don't know how many customers you'd see a day or sessions you'd have a day, but you carry that with you. Mm-hmm. And I know you enough to know that when your head on the pillow at night, you're thinking about Myrtle and Charlotte and her kids and their cousins and their poodle and what are they going to do with their cats and all this stuff. It just burdens you down.
Oh yeah, it really did. And I'm so fortunate though for that. I learned so much being there. The people that I worked with were amazing. They are amazing. I'm still friends with most of them. It was really a wonderful place to be for a really long time. The surgeon that I worked for, great guy, but I had just got to the point where I just didn't want to be on someone else's time. I wanted to be kind of on my own time. I took a trip to Europe, and that's kind of where everything really changed for me again. I mean, that was a pivotal moment, going to Europe and having a full 2 weeks, which doesn't seem like a lot of time, but at that time it was a lot for me because I didn't take time off when the doctor was in, I was there. And that was just how it was. My schedule was based off of his schedule. So I went to Europe for 2 weeks over Christmas and New Year's, and it was life-changing in the sense that not only did I get to see all these different places and cultures and things that I hadn't seen before, but also it gave me an opportunity to slow my mind down enough to know like what, again, I didn't want to do with my time. And so I came home and I just immediately started thinking of what else I could do. How could I gain control of my own schedule, my own future, my own finances? How can I decide what I'm worth rather than having someone else kind of dictate that for me, if that makes sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, so what were your options when you were looking around? What were you thinking?
I was going to start something in the fitness world. I wanted to, I did a short stint where I made my own candles and I sold candles, and everyone loved those candles. And I still get people asking me to make them candles. But it's just so time consuming, not a great return on investment as far as that goes. And so I just started kind of racking my brain to try to find out how can I work for myself, because I knew from an early age, there was one thing that I always knew how to do, and it was work hard. That was, my mom was good about that. And I've always been a really hard worker. And so I just thought, if I can work that hard for someone else, I can work that hard for myself. But how was I going to do that? I had all kinds of ideas, and I was kind of throwing things around. Nothing that really stuck until my husband said to me, you should be a salesperson. And I was like, no. And he was like, you love talking to people, like you're great with people, you really should look into sales. And I was like, no, salespeople suck. I don't trust them. Like, they're just salesy. I don't like it. I don't want to do that. And plus, I don't like anything enough to sell it, is what I told him. And then I'm joking, we're joking back and forth. And I'm like, well, except houses. Totally kidding. Not serious whatsoever. Had never crossed my mind to get into real estate ever. And he looked at me and he was like, no, seriously, you should sell houses. And I was like, you're crazy. I cannot sell houses. I don't know anything about that. I watch HGTV, that's one thing, but no, I don't think I can do that. And he just wouldn't let up. He's like, you really should sell houses. You really should do that. And actually, he's the one that did all of the research. And I was like, do you really think I can do that? And the more he kind of was like, yeah, it looks like a great fit for you. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sell houses. You're right. And so that's what I did. I went to school to get my license while I was still working for the surgeon. So that was tough, but I knew that if I was going to do this, I was going to go 100% in. So I studied my butt off and I just went for it, and it did not take me long to get the license.
And then, so you shopped around. We were one of the places you looked at.
Yes.
And I still remember the interview because I was very excited, because to me, success in real estate, a lot of it, there's a DNA strand involved, right? And what I mean by that is you have to have empathy, and everything to me is energy and intentions, right? And so there's a vibe to everybody. There's a vibe to everything, right? And your attitude and your energy and your caringness and your desire to be better, you can't teach, right? And I think you've been through so many different situations in your life that you've overcome. That's kind of been a stepping stone path to put you in control of your own world. So I knew instantly that you were going to be good, right? And we just didn't know how. I remember talking, I said, look, it's all about talking with people, which you don't have any problem doing, right? It's just the problem now is you just don't know what the hell you're talking about in real estate. So we need to teach you a little bit about real estate, and then you just go talk to people, and some people are going to want to sell real estate. Some people aren't going to be in a position to buy real estate, but who cares? Keep talking to people, right? So that seemed like a pretty good fit for you. So you get into the business, you come work. What kind of challenges was it? Was it exactly what you thought it was going to be? Was it different than what you thought it was going to be?
No, it's not anything like what I thought it was going to be. Not at all. Not even close. And I remember people telling me at the beginning that it was hard, and I knew it would be hard. I didn't expect it to be easy. And I knew people were unsure about if I really should just make a clean break, leaving one job, steady, stable income, and just jumping into something that you just don't make money until you do, and then that's just how it works. And I was like, I'm just doing it. I'm just going in. And so I left my stable job. And I remember the first broker that I interviewed with, he was like, oh, so I literally got my license on Wednesday and interviewed on Friday. I mean, it was that quick. And
well, that's how you work.
Yes, I was like, I'm just going for it. And I remember him saying to me, I had already put in my notice at my other job. And so I told him I can start in 2 weeks. And he was like, wait, you quit your job? And I said, well, yeah, I'm doing this now. And he was like, well, that's brave. I remember him saying, wow, that's brave. And I said, yeah, but I'm going to be fine. I remember looking at him and saying, I know that I can do this. So, and he was like, well, that's brave of you. And I didn't realize later on that it was brave. Yeah, it was a learning experience. Still is every day.
It still is.
Yeah.
But it never changed from what it really is. It's just sometimes people resist what it really is, right? And all this business is, and I think you're seeing this now, is you just have to become top of mind when real estate enters their world. That's it, yeah. Right? You're never talking anybody into buying real estate. You're never talking anybody into selling real estate. You just have to be thought of when that part of their world is actually happening, and they have to trust you during that process. Yeah. That's it. That's the whole real estate game. To what scale you want to do that is up to you, depending on what kind of income you're looking to, what kind of lifestyle you're looking to fund. But so in the very beginning, it took a little while to kind of get a stride, because it was not HGTV. Right? You're not getting people walking through the front door.
$1 million listing.
It's not $1 million listing. And
is that what you thought it was going to be? I'm just curious, because I think there's a lot of people watching right now that we do have a lot of people watch and listen to our podcast that are considering getting into real estate but haven't yet, right? And so a lot of them probably do have that same thought process. Like, they are watching HGTV, they are watching $1 Million Listing. Like, was that what you thought it was going to be? Like, just driving around in like really nice clothes and, selling $1 million homes?
I didn't really think it would be that. Not like that, but I did think, oh, this is just going to be fun. Like, we're going to go look at some houses, we're going to get one, and then boom, like, let's do this. And so it was all of the paperwork and all of that kind of stuff that I was like, oh, well, shoot, what do I do now? Now what? So,
and then the point that you actually have to find the people to put in your car to go drive around too, if you want to be in control of your own life.
That was another thing that I was like, okay, I'm ready. Like, who wants to go shopping? And there was nobody around. Oh, here we are. That part.
Right. But so tactically, what I think you did well is you leveraged what you have was the trust and the relationships that you had. Now, at this point, when you just started real estate, how long have you lived here in Clearwater at this stage?
Oh, I mean, now it's been 12 years. Something like that.
I'd say that again. I didn't hear that.
I think it's been about 12 years now. So
about 12 years. So you built up a pretty decent world, and through the gym and through clients and people that you met through at work. It's pretty good I Institute size. So I remember you went to the old place of employment, which they still love you and trust you, and they invite you back with open arms anytime you can. And I think you did a great job, because you actually talk about what you did there. You went to kind of put yourself back into the mix there.
So when I was leaving, they, obviously I had built a lot of really good relationships there, and it was very sad for me to leave there, in the sense that those people really were like my family. So I had a hard time leaving there, and they said, we're going to miss you just as much as you're going to miss us. Come back anytime. Anytime you want. We'll help you. We'll send you business as much as we possibly can. If you ever see an opportunity for us to be able to do that, let us know. We're happy to help you. They wished me well and supported me 100%. So there's an annual employee meeting that they have every year. And so after I had been gone a couple of months, and I kind of settled somewhere at a broker with you guys, actually, when I settled with you, I was like, okay, now I have business cards. I know for sure I'm going to stay here a while. Let me go back and pass out my cards and talk to them. And they agreed to put my information in the employee handbags that they give out to 300 employees at their annual meeting. So that was really, really nice of them.
I think though the key takeaway there, which is awesome for you, by the way, but I think the key takeaway there is building the relationship to the level where when you leave and can't really bring them any value anymore, they still want to help, right? And so it's really important for those watching, really take a hard look at your relationships and the people around you, because how many of them, the second that you stop bringing something to them, whether it's financial, whether it's, oh, you know, I help you do this, so you help me do that. As soon as that one side of the relationship slows down or stops, does that relationship continue? Because those are the real relationships that matter, right? And it demonstrates your ability to build real connection with the people around you. So I think that speaks volumes about you. So I just want to make that point, though, that doesn't happen if you don't build quality connections with people.
Yeah, and when I left there, I have some really fond memories, and when I left, I said, this isn't goodbye, it's just see you later, and I really meant that. I still keep in touch with a lot of the people there regularly. So yeah, when I make friends, I usually, I try to keep them around,
I remember one of the times where we were in the office together, and I think you had one of your old employees called you that was actually in a consultation with a person that was thinking about buying or selling their house. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember that. Cat. Good old cat.
Good old cat. So she just sent you some business over there. Yeah. All right. So it didn't happen quickly, right? How many times did you doubt your decision?
I doubted it. I can't say how many times. I just knew, though, that I was just going to I wasn't going to turn around and go back where I came from. Usually when I make a decision to move in a different direction, I just move in that direction and keep trying. There were a couple of times that I looked at my husband and I'm like, what have I done? What if, but he was like, you got this. Like, just keep at it. And so I trusted in him, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I got this.
That's great to have that support too. Here's what I think is really cool about this industry too, is you can look around and you can watch other people doing it. Mm-hmm. Right? So, and especially take your gym perspective, you can watch somebody and you can watch their form, you can watch their focus, you can watch what they actually do. It can be replicated, right? Mm-hmm. That's how everybody can just train, right? You train to a certain level to get a certain outcome. You can look around and start saying, well, how can she do that? How did she get 3 listings, right? And then you listen, like, she called it for sale by owner. Oh, she did this with her sphere. She did this with this is how I didn't know about that loan program. So you start to learn and start to listen, and you go, I think you have to acknowledge the fact that when you get into anything new, you know nothing, right? And you have to embrace that and just realize that that's kind of why you're around the people that you're around. So you can just suck off of us until, and while you become more competent. Yes. Because you have confidence, but you just don't have any competence yet.
Yeah, it was difficult because I where I came from, I was the go-to person, and I was kind of the liaison between the whole thing. And I didn't know it all. No one knows it all, but I always was the person that people would come to if there was an issue, if they needed something fixed or help with something. So to go from that to literally, I don't know anything. It was tough for sure at the beginning. I was like,
remind me, what was the first deal you did?
So the first one that I did was someone that I knew from my old job. I had worked with her, so we didn't work very closely together, but we worked close enough that she knew I had a strong work ethic. She knew she could trust me in that capacity. And she called me out of the blue and she said, oh, I got your card in the bags at the employee meeting. And my husband and I are looking for a home, and I was wondering if you could help us. And I was like, absolutely. And that was where I got my first transaction. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's pause on that one for a second, because I think there's a lot of takeaways to that. Number one was, like Mike said, that you had the trust and they loved you enough to allow you to come back, which is good. But everybody could have had that opportunity to say, yeah, come on back. We love you anytime. And everybody would have just kind of brushed it off. You actually took that to heart, right? Because you like these people, and you took the initiative. You took the step to find out when the employee meeting was, asked if you could show up, showed up, right? and did the things and brought the things and took the initiative, had the passion to say, a little bit of blind faith saying, I know something will come from this, put your little packages together, 300 of them, and then sat and wait. I mean, that's part of this that I think is huge, because a lot of agents have great ideas, right? If they could, that was 300 contacts, right? That's like going to a 300 person neighborhood and dropping flyers on the door, right? That's like sending something to 300 for sale by owners, expired listing. That's doing a post to social, whatever it may be. But you're starting to, you took that initiative, and then they trusted you. And you said that too. She knew you enough to know that you had good work ethic and she could trust you.
Yeah.
I think that's become a common thread in the deals that you've done since then, is they know you, they like you, they trust you. And then as you've been getting better and better, they now see you're good at what you do. Because you're doing a great job in your social. I'm sure Mike will probably ask about that in a second. But as they see your successes, listed another one, sold another one, sold another one. So I'm so happy for my clients, and pictures of you and your customers and your testimonials and people raving in the reviews. That starts to fill that one missing link, because it's those three things. Can I trust you? Are you good at what you do? And do you care about me? You've got the I can trust you and that you care about them down pat. And then now you're starting to build you're good at what you do too.
Yeah. Definitely.
Good. So from a social media, from a perspective to kind of launch out there, how is that? What have you been doing that's worked?
What have I been doing that's worked? Really, honestly, in every transaction, I've been just trying to really build a good, strong bond with those people. So at the end of it, when I'm taking pictures with them and I'm posting them on my social media, I'm saying, I'm so happy for this client. You know, this is her first home. This was important to her. Or this client really wanted this amazing bathtub, and look, she got it. This is great. Good for her. You know, those things are sincere, because I really have built that relationship throughout the weeks and sometimes months of the process. By the end of it, I like to say that I have made a friend, they've made a friend. And so, you know, I guess just being sincere in those things and telling people, look how great this is for them. I think that's really shown people that there are agents out there that do sincerely want to help.
And you can't fake that authenticity at all. What I'm excited for you about your career is that you haven't been doing this long enough yet to really see the lifetime value of those deals. And every one of those is worth about $130,000 to you during your career, because their mom, their sister, their cousin, their uncle, their brother, their neighbor, right? And their person that plays softball.
The first one has sent me, I have 2 other contracts from a referral from her. And then there are 3 other people that have just contacted me saying they got my name from her. So already that's 6 from one person. And what I try to do is just take such good care of the people that they care about, that now those people will go, oh, I can trust her with these people because she'll care about them like she cared about me. It seems to be working so far.
I think that's awesome. I mean, really, she's doing the influencer strategy, but from a smaller scale, from people that you trust and like from your sphere.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about social, really, I always say it's conversations at scale, right? That's all it is. And then when you take the influencer strategy, what are influencers? They're just people that have influence over another group of people that you don't, right? So if you can build trust with that individual and leverage their influence over another group, that's all influencer marketing is. But you've been able to replicate that model in a digital world, communicating via social, which is where everyone's attention is, and ultimately that drives your business. So it's not an easy thing, it's a simple thing.
That's the difference. All right, so Shana, for those who are watching that are in the I don't know if this is for me stage, might have done a few deals and are questioning it, what advice do you give?
I would say figure out, what do you want? What do you really want? And what really makes you tick, and then lean into that. And if those things line up with what this business can do for you, then I would say just do it. Just go all in.
I'm glad you just said that, 'cause you just reminded me about something I think is really important, because the switch turned on for you and your business. And I think what happened, and a lot of agents make this assumption, and I think it's a fatal flaw mistake, is they come in thinking they need to be something, right? They need to act a way, they need to be a way, they need to become something, right? And the ones who actually really do well realize that they're already perfect exactly the way that you are, right? Everybody that you know from the gym or from the Eye Institute, from anywhere, from Publix, right? They see you, they like you, the real you, the otaku you, right? The one that likes to be you, that just likes to be expressive, and that's it. Anytime you try to tweak that or dial anything up or down, it's not real, right? And people sense that, and they're repelled. And then I think once it came from you, that you're like, you know what, screw it. This is me. This is my passion. This is what I like to do about people. And to use your words, you just leaned truly all into you. And that became attractive again, right?
Yeah.
Because it was, there she is, it's her, got it. It's not a salesy version of her, right? It's you. That just happens to be an industry that provides value in the real estate industry. You were in an industry that provided value in the industry before. Now you're being you in the real estate industry. This one just happens to have better paychecks at the end of the.
It was interesting trying to get those personality traits that were already there and translating them over to real estate. I remember at the beginning, I was at the gym and I had these shoes on, and my friend said, "Oh, I love your shoes." And before I knew it, 5 people were around talking about my shoes, and then they were leaving saying, "Oh, I'm going home right now, I'm going to order some." And I looked at my friend and I said, "Now, if only I can do that with houses. You know, if only I can know that much about houses and grow that confidence to be able to do that with homes too, I think I'd be going somewhere." So, yeah.
But to your strength though, once you had that thought, I know what you did. You started learning about houses, right? You go online, you read about them, you go see them, you go preview them, you learn, you read, you see, why does this one this much? Why is this 700? This one's 650, that one's 850. They're on the same street. And you start to realize this one has a seawall, this doesn't, this one faces the sunset, this one doesn't, this has a pool, this one's old, this one's metal, this one's wood, right? All these type of things come into the play that there's no way you can know, right? And, you know, you're still new, right? And to my opinion, an agent is quote unquote new, I think, for the first 5 years. There's so much to learn until you get mastery under your belt, where you've pretty much seen a lot, right? So I love the fact that that doesn't trip you up. You just go for it and start learning and just getting better and better on that.
Yeah, definitely. I've learned so much in such a short amount of time. And I'm going to just continue to do that. And it's actually now it's exciting for me, you know, to learn the things that I didn't know on the last transaction, because everyone is different. So now it's something I can, at first it was like, oh my gosh, I have to get one of these done. I have to get a transaction. You know, how am I going to pay my bills? And then it's just, something just clicked. And now I'm just really having a good time doing it.
Then you're getting top producers. You're crushing. We're very proud to have you on our team for sure. What is happiness to you right now? What's success? What's the next level? Shana, what is your lifestyle goals? What are things that you and your husband are looking to do?
Well, my husband and I are on the same wavelength with finances. He's a financial planner, certified financial planner. So I have him in my back pocket, which is really great. Yeah. And we've always kind of put our heads together about things, but I think the two professions really just go hand in hand now, and we're able to really look at things together long term. He was always good at that, and I was always can we talk about next week? And he's like talking about retirement, right? So now I am able to look at things more from a bigger perspective of what do we want, you know, when we retire, what kind of family life do we want? What do we want to be able to provide for our children when we have them? And so happiness right now, what the goals that we have now, we want to be debt free. You know, we want to be able to, our income is just our income. And then we get to choose what we spend that on, right? So it's not we're not being a slave to the lender of our car or our home or, whatever else. So we want to be debt free. Financial freedom is happiness to me now. I want to travel. I want to be able to just pay for things and not have to borrow money to pay for things, which growing up, on welfare and in a lower income housing, those things, I never knew that there was such a thing as just, oh, you just pay for it because you have the money to do that. That didn't come to me until more recently. So,
which is very powerful, because the law of contrast is important, right? You couldn't have that feeling or that drive or that appreciation if you didn't see that other side, right? And then one of the best things ever is not having anything, right? One of the best experiences of my life was I had made a lot and then I lost it, right? And I know which one I like better, is having it. And I know what it takes is a lot of hard work, and there's no question and there's no limits. So what I think is, I'm excited for you because you now know that there is no limitation, right? It's whatever you guys decided you want to create. I don't think there's any doubt in your mind you can create 50 grand in a quarter if you wanted to. You know how to do it.
Yeah. And I'll never forget you telling me when we first met, I don't know if you remember this, you said that two things that stuck out to me, that I was like a caged animal just waiting to be let loose, which
yes, I remember that.
There. And also that I would out earn my husband.
Yep.
It was the first time last month I out earned my husband, which was amazing. That was amazing.
That makes me really happy. I knew it. There's no doubt about it. I remember I was saying, you're pacing a cage. You're just like waiting and waiting and waiting to go. She's made for communication. And this is the people in communication business, and you were bred for that. You're where you need to be. So I think you are a big inspiration. We're proud to have you a part of the company.
Thank you.
And every next level you guys go to. And I don't think your husband's probably too disappointed that you're out earning him either. That's probably
not at all. Not at all.
No, he's got a sugar mama now. Are you kidding me? He's probably pumped. Yeah, he's planning on retiring earlier now. He's just putting that in it's on the board, championship. I love it.
He's now stay-at-home dad. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So Puma, it's almost like from the hood to sugar mama is the title of this podcast.
It could be. I'll have to play with the title a bit. But yeah, I mean, I think her background, your background is perfect for this industry, but I agree with you, Jeff. I think that background early on really set the foundation. I mean, obviously I'm sure it wasn't fun at times to live through, but there's no question for me that sets up success. I know you probably worry about it, Jeff. I do. Like, my kids don't know what that's like, right? Yet, and hopefully, it's funny as a parent. I hope they never do, but at the same time, I know, going through those low moments helps you recognize what low actually is, and to your credit, what you don't want, right? And moving towards what you do want. Jeff, you went through it. My parents went through it. Right. But if my kids just go through it with never having that adversity, I actually think that's a major disadvantage for them. Right. And I that messes with me as a parent. So it's really interesting how a lot of people just wish they had success, where I actually think that chip on your shoulder from when you were a kid has led to your success already, but is going to allow you to go to insane levels that most people would not even be able to fathom, because they don't have that chip on their shoulder.
Love it. So, now, that's a very inspirational piece. I think a lot of people are going to just attach to many different nuggets along the way. So I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
And we're proud of you, and keep on going. And I'm looking forward to the next level of you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Bye.